han har kæmpet imod menneskeskabte klimaforandringer ved blandt andet at skabe bevidsthed, ved at holde foredrag og ved at stifte organisationer såsom scientistwarning.org-initiativet. Hvert år udsender Stuart Climate Matters TV direkte fra der, hvor landene holder deres årlige møde om klimaindsatsområdet. Jeg overlader nu ord til Stuart Scott.
Teach at university, I would tell my students, please turn this off, and anyone whose phone rings during class, I will mark your grade down, full point, from A to B, from B to C. It would only happen once every semester, and I'd make believe that I was writing something in my book. Never happened again. Please, I get a head of steam going, and when the phone goes off, it breaks that head of steam. Now, I have mine up there so I can try to stay on time. This is where it all starts and ends. This is our only home. Talk about going to Mars is science fiction. Not even the wealthy people could afford to set up a colony on Mars. We are here. We have to protect this. Unfortunately, it's falling to your generation to make up for the mistakes that my generation made and is still making. I'm going to try to make you aware of those mistakes. Now, I am this year making my presentation on behalf of the World Scientists Warning to Humanity. The website that I've created is scientistswarning.org. I encourage you to go to that, easy to remember, Scientists Warning, and it's a .org, and the director. Now, we'll go back to 1992, before most of you were born. In 1992, a group of scientists, 1,700 scientists, signed the first World Scientists Warning to Humanity. It was published online. The internet was actually new then, but it was published online, and it made a big splash. People said, oh my gosh. My question is, what happened? Did we change? Not much happened. It was in the news, people were concerned. Nothing was done. Nothing really was done. 25 years later, in 2017, another scientist and ecologist noticed that when the wolves were removed from an ecosystem he was studying, the trees started to die. Why? Wolves, trees? The whole ecosystem was falling apart because we had removed the top predator. He became very concerned. He got a group of his colleagues together. 8 of them wrote an article, a peer-reviewed article, which was the World Scientists Warning to Humanity's second notice. We had not taken notice of the first one. It was signed by over 15,000 scientists when it was published, a record. It's been signed by an additional 8,000 now. When I came across this, I got in touch with them and I said, you've left out one very important group. And they said, oh, what? The public. You've only asked for scientists to sign. You haven't given any ability for the public to get involved. Would you let me do that? And they did, and that's when I created that Scientists Warning website. Now, I will go into, very briefly, a list of ecological stressors, difficulties that we have placed upon the ecology of the planet, ways in which we are killing the home that sustains us. I can only go through them very quickly, and one I will focus on, the last one. We are losing biodiversity of the planet at an alarming rate. That alone could kill us, but more slowly than the chief one I'll come to later. Our food systems are defective. 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions are said to come from the way we produce, distribute, and consume food, and waste. Fresh water is becoming very scarce in many nations, especially now that we are fracking for unusual forms of oil and gas. We are destroying the water tables in many countries. We are depleting marine life at an alarming rate, and the related stressor of ocean pollution. They're not exactly the same, but they're obviously related. We're destroying our forests. We're destroying them for producing cattle, soybeans to feed cattle and pigs, and palm oil, which we consume in our foods and in our lotions and shampoos. Look on the labels. Whenever you see palm oil, represents destroyed rainforest. We are toxifying the air that we breathe. I don't call it air pollution because we have already kind of gotten used to that word, air pollution. We all live with air pollution. Our air is now becoming toxic in many places. Low birth rate babies. Breathing this kind of air pollution produces dementia, Alzheimer's in older people. But our governments permit it. We are degrading soils around the planet. The way we produce food kills soil. We pour lots of chemicals on top of it. Now, if I had more time, I would go into each of these in detail. Population is what we call a sacred cow. It's not discussed. Politicians don't want to talk about the fact that we have too many people for our small planet. And climate change. Climate change is the big one. I want to go right to that one. What you're seeing is a representation of the ice cap, the Arctic ice cap in 1980, late summer, September 1980. Just a few years later, in 2007. Now, so you don't think I'm trying to cheat by taking just 2 points that show a certain trend. Let me show you the whole data set, month by month. The bright green is at the bottom, that is September, late summer. And scientists had to revise their concept. They used to think that it was a straight line. Now they realize that it's a curve. And we are expecting to have an ice-free Arctic in September in as soon as 5 years, probably within 5 years. That doesn't mean zero ice, it means less than a certain amount. That's very dangerous. I'll show you why. Let's go back to that view and take a look particularly at something called the East Siberian Arctic Shelf, north of Siberia. Let me show it to you in a flat representation. It's about 2,500 kilometers long. It's about 350 kilometers wide, but it's only about 70 meters deep, very shallow. So what happens on the bottom affects the surface.
So for the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a joint Russian-Alaskan expedition going out into the Siberian Sea and observing this, and they've been seeing great plumes of methane bubbling up all over the Siberian Sea. The whole zone of millions of square miles of territory is now releasing all of this methane cover. And that's a large boost to global warming because methane is an extremely powerful climatically active gas.
He is one of the world's authorities on the Arctic sea ice. He's a retired professor from Cambridge. His specialization is ocean physics. For 40 years, he went up underneath the Arctic ice in nuclear submarines and turned the sonar upside down to look at the ice from the bottom. Because without that kind of research, we can only see how wide the ice is. We can't see how thick it is. And he realized that while it was still wide, it was thin. There wasn't very much ice left. He became very, very concerned. Now, if you remember, he said millions of square miles. He does not have a speech problem. He was having a hard time getting out because it's so shocking. Now let me show you the result of those millions of square miles releasing all this methane cover. On the left, this polar projection was taken in November of 2008, and on the right, just 4 years later. The darkest red represents the most methane, CH4. Let me explain. If something dies on the surface where there's oxygen, it will decompose with bacteria and fungi, and it will create a lot of carbon dioxide, CO2, and water vapor, H2O, and trace minerals which go back to the soil. That's the balance of nature. When organic material decomposes in the absence of oxygen, either underground or underwater, there's no oxygen, it forms CH4, methane. Methane is extremely powerful heat-trapping gas. When it comes out of the ground or out of the water, it's over 150 times as powerful at trapping heat. Over a 20-year period, it's only 80 or 90 times as powerful. Over a 100-year period, it's only 20 to 30 times as powerful. Methane is very dangerous stuff, and it's coming out in the Arctic, which is very sensitive climatically. Let me point out Dr. Ira Leifer, who was one of the 3 scientists, the American amongst the American, Russian, and Chinese scientists who did this research. And let me show you Dr. Ira Leifer. He works at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and I'm going to show you a quote that he made in 2013. I've broken it up into 3 parts so that you can read it as I read it. Some scientists are indicating we should make plans to adapt to a 4 degrees centigrade hotter world. While prudent, one wonders what portion of the population could adapt to such a world. My view is that it's just a few thousand people seeking refuge in the Arctic and Antarctica. Makes my hair stand up. From over 7 billion now, the human population may go down to a few thousand. There's discussion about humanity going extinct. These are available on the internet if you look for them. They are not in the press every day. Our governments don't want to panic us with the possibilities that we are creating. Now I'm going to go into why we are creating these possibilities. That's the information I have to give you, the leverage with which you can maybe change things. I'm going to show you 4 maps. The most dangerous part of climate change is not ocean rise. Plastic in the ocean, yes, it's a big problem, but that's not the most dangerous thing. The most dangerous thing, I feel, is our ability to feed ourselves. Now, I'm going to show you 4 maps of the Earth. First, let me show you the scale. This is relative wet or dry, not absolute. So if you take a look, in that area, it's green and yellow. That does not mean that the Sahara Desert was moist. It means that it was usually dry in that first decade of this century. We'll go from the first decade to the 1/3 point, to the 2/3 points, to the final decade of this century in the next few slides. So, 2030 through 39, oh yes, the source of this data is the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research, very well known, very well respected consortium of universities who pool their research. So 2030 through 39, you can already see drought taking hold. 2060 through 69, and 2090 through 99. But we don't have to go to the end of the century to see the problem. 2030 through 39, you can already see the drought biting in the middle of America. biting in the Mediterranean. You felt it bite this year. The grain crop was down 40% in Denmark. Many many farmers went bankrupt. 1 year of drought. We do not have a resilient agricultural system. Farming should be the best paid job. It's the poorest paid job, or one of them. And you have to use lots of chemicals in order to farm nowadays. We should be farming organically. We should be 100% farming organically with lots of people. When farms get dry, they wilt. July 2017, you can see how green driftwood was. 1 year later, July of 2018. Let's put those two next to one another. 1 year, 40% reduction in the grain crop. This is what it looked like in Germany. That's what it looked like in Denmark. That photograph came from an article I found online, which indicated that 40% of the crop was lost. Over $1 billion, 6 billion kroner. You remember how hot it was this summer. This is just a taste of things to come. The hot from this summer will become a frequent occurrence, and then it will become a constant occurrence, because that 4 degrees centigrade rise, which is just a guess, it's much warmer when you go towards the poles. It's exaggerated, so it won't be just 4 C hotter here. It may be 8 C hotter here, and only 2 C hotter at the equator. It's unevenly distributed. And when forests get dry, they burn. California, early this year, I used to have to go out to the internet and look in the past few years to find slides that would demonstrate what I wanted to show. I can find everything in 2018 now. Greece this year, Japan, not known for wildfires, Siberia, not known for wildfires, Canada, also not known for wildfires. This is a different kind of hothouse effect. The UK, not known for wildfires. California again, even now, second major fire, greatest loss of life, largest fire, I believe, in the state's history, probably in the history of the United States. And our stupid president just kind of shrugs it off. I don't mind calling him stupid. Sweden, when a woman I know from Sweden saw the slide, she said 1/3 of the country was burning at one time. 1/3 of Sweden was on fire. And Denmark. Now, to understand climate change clearly, I feel you need to watch the heat effect of the carbon dioxide we have already emitted, past emissions. This is the heat now we're talking about. From that bomb blast times over 400,000. That's what we have done to the planet. You think that might change a few things? As I said, if you search for it, if you look online, you will find the debate increasing in urgency. Bloomberg Businessweek, major publication in the financial world, saying new climate debate, how to adapt to the end of the world. Very serious stuff. Now, if researchers are thinking about social collapse, let me go back. I didn't read the caption on that one. There we go. Researchers are thinking about social collapse and how to prepare for it. Social collapse in Bloomberg News. So if researchers are thinking about social collapse, why is it almost ignored in the news media? Well, we have a defective news media for one reason. How can that be? Why are the papers ignoring this? In the United States, we call it consumer confidence. We want to keep people confident so they will keep buying. But I'm stealing my own punchline. Let me go on. What should we be doing? Now, first, in order to understand what I feel that you young people should be doing, I want to go for a realization. Global civilization has an operating system, like the operating system on your phone or on your computer. It has an operating system. I'm the only professor in the world that I know of who teaches this, every chance I get. What would you call the operating system of civilization if we had one? Think about it. Now, that operating system is disastrously flawed. The operating system is killing us. And the operating system is known by two names: money and economics. What makes the world go round? Money makes the world go round. Do you have a similar saying in Danish? The bottom line. Now, I have to tell you that economics, the word, has been stolen by the current economic system, which is called neoclassical economics. It's also called growth economics. It's also become mainstream economics, and it holds all other schools of economic thought, all other models for how we might run an economy. It holds them away. It hides them. It does not teach them. The current system was put in place by a very wealthy Wall Street banker, J.P. Morgan, about 100 years ago, when he endowed the chairmanship of the economics department at the Chicago School of Business, and then schools started following suit all over the world. Pretty soon it was the only thing being taught. It's defective, but it happens to be the system that benefits the bankers the most. So let's take a look at money. Money is a virus of the mind. You're probably familiar with the term meme. Meme has two meanings. The newer meaning is anything that goes viral on the internet is a meme. The original meaning is an idea, a body of ideas that pass itself from one individual to another, from one generation to another, from one nation to another, and takes over and controls our behavior. For instance, there's a meme that men wear slacks and women can wear slacks or a dress. Very few cultures will allow men to wear dresses. That's a meme in the original meaning. The meme of Christianity was when they came to a civilization where women were allowed to go topless. That was regarded as sinful, and women had to cover up. That was another meme. Well, money is a meme. Money uses humanity for its own reproduction. It's a virus. If you think about it, it bears out. What do? We go to school. Why? So we can get jobs. Why do we need jobs? To make money. To make money. Not just to earn money, to make it. We create it with our work. And we create it to pay our rents and our mortgages and our student loans. We are either paying our own loans or helping someone else pay their loans. or helping our government pay off the loans that it took from its central bank, which is a private banking corporation in almost every country on earth. Only one country, Costa Rica, has a sovereign currency. I'm introducing a lot of ideas. You will have to do the research later if you're interested. But the bank, the Central Bank of Denmark, is a private banking company that's been given permission to create the money of the country, which then you owe back with your taxes. It's a scam. Money is turning the natural world into more money as fast as it possibly can. It's turning this into this. That image says it all. We are doing that. We are participating in that. We try to get educated to get to top jobs in these companies that do that turn nature into money. Well, unfortunately, your generation is the generation that's getting screwed by all of this. It's gone too far, but my generation is hooked. Trump is an idiot, but he's a product of the system. The last election in the US was a battle between Wall Street money and fossil fuel money. Fossil fuel money won. Hillary Clinton would not have been much better. In very subtle ways, she would have continued to destroy the planet. Now, the strangest part is that money prevents most of us from even seeing that as a problem. We have to think outside the box. We have to think differently. In mainstream economics, the one being taught in business schools all over the world, nature is considered an externality. That is, it does not matter. Nature makes no difference. What? This is an amazing fact. The man who was awarded the Nobel Prize in economics this year, and the economics prize is not a real Nobel. The economics prize was endowed by the Swedish Central Bank in 1968. It's a phony. It's a phony Nobel Prize. And it's always been awarded to someone who's, except for one time perhaps, to someone who supports the mainstream economic system. And the guy who they awarded it to this year, Nordhaus, for his contribution on climate change, get this. His contribution included saying, since agriculture is only 2% of the global GDP, gross GNP, gross national product, gross domestic product, the measure of how well we're doing, how much money we're creating, agriculture is only 2%. So if agriculture suffers this century, it's not a big deal. Excuse me? What are we going to eat? That's his contribution for which he got a Nobel Prize. It's rigged. The system is rigged against you guys. Now, I threw this in at the last minute before I made this presentation because you're studying these goals. Guess what? It's 16 and a half Sustainable Development Goals. There's a ringer in there. We call it a ringer, a fake in there. That one is the fake. Half of it, decent work, sure. But economic growth is what's killing us. But the mainstream economists got it in there. You can't have that without their approval. So I say it's 16 and a half goals. From the poorest to the richest, money owns us, not the other way around, as is commonly assumed. Yeah, we have the money in our pockets, we have the credit cards, but those credit cards are how we are controlled by the banks. Now, the third part of my presentation, and then I hope we have time for some Q&A. interventions. What should you be doing? What can you be doing? This one is a high-level thing, but when I was talking with my host yesterday about what you can be doing, you, if you understand this, can be writing to your government and saying, slow down, moderate the rate of increase of money. And this is how to moderate it. There's something called a reserve requirement that allows banks to lend out 10 times as much money as they actually have. If we formed a bank together, say for 1 million kroner we started a bank, we could lend out 10 million kroner. So we could multiply money just because we wanted to. This is the growth of money in the United States. It's that exponential growth curve. It's increasing faster and faster. We should require all students to study ecology. All students. Unfortunately, we tell students, well, you specialize. Okay, pick a specialty. Especially our business majors in university. They are not required to know anything about ecology. They just know how to guess what? Make money. And the ones who are the greediest and the ones who are the best at ignoring the fact that we're destroying the nature that we survive on, they are promoted to the top. And of course you get jerks like, need I say his name one more time, Trump, or the new one in Brazil, Bolsonaro, who has said he will take all of the controls off of the Amazon so that it can be cut down faster, so they can grow livestock, grains to feed livestock, because the Chinese are very hungry for more pork. Lawsuits. It's time for us to sue our governments and the corporations who are most at fault. Recently, the group called Dette won a judgment against the government of the Netherlands, very recent, in the last couple of months, requiring Netherlands to do more to control climate change. And the Netherlands is not one of the worst countries. The Netherlands is one of the better countries. No country is doing enough. This protest march helped support that decision. The courts saw that there was a lot of popular interest in the subject that probably helped them make their decision. Very important when there are marches. I don't know what the culture is in Denmark. I don't think the culture supports marches very much. I think it's up to you guys to get out there and change that. In the United States, Juliana versus the US government. 20 young people and one climate scientist, Dr. James Hansen, who was the first climate scientist to say we have a big problem here. His granddaughter is one of the plaintiffs. I don't see her in there now. These brave young kids are going up against the United States government. Now, unfortunately, Barack Obama, the great Barack Obama, could have settled this. After Trump was elected, there were a few months in which Hansen approached Obama and said, settle the case. Take it out of the hands of the next administration. And Obama refused. Whatever his advisors told him, he said no. What an opportunity was lost. It doesn't have to be done against a nation. It can be done against a province. It can probably be done against a city. We need to be going to the law and proving in courts of law that the decisions being made by nations and states and subnational governments are destroying your future. Vote. Every election.
Dear young people,
Don't vote.
don't vote.
Everything's fine the way it is.
Trump got his ass.
He's our guy.
Tax cuts for the rich? Hell yeah, I'm rich as fuck.
Climate change? That's a you problem. I'll be dead soon. Sure, school shootings are sad.
But I haven't been in a school for 50 years.
I can't keep track of which lives matter.
Sure you don't like it. So, you'll like some meme on Instagram.
If the weather is nice, maybe you could go to one of those little marches.
You might even share this video on Facebook.
But you won't vote.
You young people never do.
But I do. I do.
I do. Midterms, primaries.
Every single election.
We'll be there, but you won't.
Because we're a generation of doers.
Not whiners.
And we're doing great.
That video did go viral, went viral on both YouTube and Facebook, and several million young people got out and registered to vote who would ordinarily not have, and it changed several election outcomes. Democrats who talk about environment were elected in conservative Republican districts. Vote. As soon as you're able, register and vote. I don't know what the voting age is. Is it 18 in this country or 21? 18. Vote. Get angry. Very angry at what's being done to your world. I believe the time has come for civil disobedience. And so I weep every time I show this slide. This 15-year-old girl in Sweden did a one-woman strike for climate. She sat outside the Swedish parliament for a couple of weeks saying, if you don't give a rip about the world I'm going to live in, then I don't give a rip about your law that I have to go to school. She became famous overnight. She's like Joan of Arc. People are copying her. In Australia, there are 21 cities that have formed school strike for climate. I'm not telling you guys what to do, especially not here in school. School is not here. But it's time for you guys to take some power and speak out. There's something else going on called the Extinction Rebellion. Strong messaging. We are threatening ourselves with extinction. Our economic system of growing and devouring nature is threatening us with extinction. We have become consumers. Consumers. We see thousands and thousands of ads, everyone trying to sell us more crap. Is the word crap understood, or should I say? I don't want to say shit. Extinction Rebellion, this was on October 31st in England. This was on November 17th, just a couple of days ago, where these strikers took over 7 of the bridges that cross the Thames River. Many allowed themselves to be arrested. It made international headlines. Peaceful demonstration, extremely important, non-violent, because one rock thrown and the images in the newspapers become damaging. You have to be very peaceful. This was the bridge by the Westminster Bridge. That is the Parliament building. Big Ben Tower, if I'm not mistaken. They took over the bridges just a few days ago. Refuse to fly. Your parents want to fly somewhere for vacation and take you, say, I'm sorry, I don't want to fly. What? But we're going to visit your relatives in Paris. Well, we can take the train. Literally. That is just a few hours of flying. Flying puts carbon dioxide up high in the atmosphere where it does the most damage the quickest. We should be holding our meetings by either high bandwidth telepresence when it's very important to see the wrinkles in the person's face, to see their expression face to face, or low bandwidth video conferencing through Skype, something called Zoom. I use Zoom, I like it better than Skype. It allows me to record my conversations and I can meet with 40, 60 people at a time. Take the trains, you're very lucky. You've got a really good train system. Take the buses. Okay, I hear you. Hey, everything's relative. In America, the train system sucks. You can't get many places. You've got a very good train system. I know it doesn't always run on time. The internet doesn't always work either, by the way. Imagine a world without internet. Well, if we don't start using the trains and buses more, we will probably have a world without internet during your lifetime. What? Oh my God. Take away anything you want, but not my cell phone, please. I actually had to get a cell phone because my kids had one before I did. And I got hand-me-ups from my children. When their mom would get them a new cell phone, I'd get their old one. The bottom line is that we must all become active immediately to avert a catastrophe for us and all of life on Earth. Now, if you will join the group that I'm trying to push this agenda with, this is where you go, scientistswarning.org/join. And this is the form for joining as an individual. We don't spam you, we don't send a lot of email. There's no donate button on the site, we don't send out an annual appeal. We run on volunteer without the use of money, all personal funds. How can I possibly have a donate button on the website when I have such a strong criticism of the whole system of money? Can't do it. People will say, hypocrite. And if you're an organization, it could be a club or a school or that's where you can get hold of me if you want. Now I'll warn you that until December 15th I will probably not be able to answer very much because I have a lot of work in front of me to do at the annual climate negotiations and I'm not prepared yet. But December 15th the pressure is off and I'll start responding to email there. Okay, so thank you very much. I have to apologize if I may said something that rocked your world a little bit or your understanding of the world that you live in. But I'm not bullshitting. This is very serious and we're not being told. There are many, many more of my videos at scientistswarning.tv that goes to a YouTube channel that has me talking to various thought leaders, climate scientists, whatnot. Okay. Questions? Managed to finish on time, 42 minutes, and we have time for questions. Stunned silence. Okay, there's someone in the back. Can you stand up and belt it out and I'll repeat the question?
Well, you talked a bit about our system. What do you think of our system as it is now?
Our system being Denmark?
Yeah, Denmark system.
You know, I'm not well enough versed in the social system to really comment. Denmark, okay, from my observations, prices are high here, but that's because taxes are built in. And taxes are built in to support the population, because there's a notion that the government's responsibility is to take care of its people. Now, it's been pointed out to me that responsibility, that safety net, as we call it in the United States, has been shrinking in Denmark, where health care may be less and less, where if you're out of a job, it used to be you could go on for a longer time before you were forced to find work, and that's been shrinking. Why? If you trace why, it's because they're squeezing the population. It's called austerity. in polite banking circles. In Greece, when Greece almost defaulted on its international loans, the Prime Minister of Greece said, "Screw you guys," and the bankers came down on him hard, and they said, "You will either accept our terms or we will create a nightmare in Greece." And he kowtowed, and austerity was enforced in Greece, which meant that people's savings were tapped into. In other words, if you had 100,000 kroner saved up, the equivalent, then some of that was lost. The government harvested some of that to pay back the bankers. What? The squeezing that goes on in social services is because the bankers require ever more and more interest. Okay, so you're lucky you have a system that has a good social net. In the United States, not just Trump, all the recent administrations have been shrinking that social net somewhat. It would take me more study of the Danish system to really comment more than that. But since Denmark is a fairly conscientious nation, and it wants to do its bit in the world, especially in terms of climate change, the government probably could be sued successfully. Like I say, Netherlands was sued successfully, and they're not one of the worst. But we need to be doing that to set an example so the really bad guys will fall in line. Another question?
Well, do you have any ideas for what we think is like daily choices that we could make to prevent the global warming? Like
daily?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the key word. Yeah. I have a lot more slides. I have thousands of slides on my computer. I had a very short amount of time. I had to leave a certain number of slides out. Let me go and unhide a couple of slides. Can you hold the mic for me so I can talk while I'm doing this? Just hold it close enough so I can talk. Okay, so drawdown. Drawdown.org. Go to that website, drawdown.org. It's a collection of 100 things that people should be and could be doing in their daily lives. Some of them are not exactly things you can do, but many of them are. I'm sorry, I unhid a bunch of slides, so there are ones that I probably should get rid of, and it will, I just had to make a mistake and show you all of them. Reforestation, planting trees. I'll go further and I'll say, if you have any earth in your backyard, you should learn how to use it, how to grow food. It so happens they've discovered that when you put your hands in soil, there's a spontaneous release of chemicals called endorphins in your system, in your brain. That is, working with your hands in the soil is pleasurable. Endorphins is what is released when you have sex, when you eat chocolate. Those endorphins are released when you put your hands in the soil. So gardening is good for you as well as good for the earth. And it may be that during your lifetime you need to know how to grow food. It may be. But planting trees is certainly something we should be doing. Now, when they did the 100 top, 2 that were in the top 10 related to women. And by the way, I like to say that if women ran the world, not white men, we wouldn't be in this problem. Because the nature of the woman is to nourish, to nurture children. The nature of the man is to conquer. This is not, law, but it's just the way we evolved. And then had to carry the spears and chase away the lions. Okay? Women had to nourish the babies. So it's part of our evolutionary. Well, if you take the other one from the top 10 it was called female health clinics, basically, okay? Fertility health clinics, okay? That would educate women about contraception, that would make contraception available, that would make delivering babies safer so that women wouldn't have to have many babies so that they could ensure that they would have a family to take care of them. When you combined those two, educating girls and family health planning, family health clinics, it became the #1 way to reduce carbon emissions. So supporting the education of women in developing countries is very important. Now that's something that you can do with donations. You can find the groups that are doing that. Again, they make reference to teleconferencing. This man is talking as he walks. He holds his hand up so that the robot will precede him. Okay, so we got the tech down. We don't have to travel. So instead of getting on a plane, this guy, again, refused to travel. Rooftop solar, and I'm very pleased to see that even though Denmark is very far to the north, a lot of houses have solar on the roof. And even if it's a slow payback, in America we think, well, all over the world, oh gosh, is it worth it? How long will it take before I get my money back from saving the electricity? That's not the point. That's not the point anymore. We can't afford, no. The strongest single thing I believe that you could do is change your relationship to money, the way you think about what's valuable in the world. If you're willing to spend more for organic products that have been farmed in a way that helps the earth rather than hinders the earth. Let me explain farming again. I think I said before that we farm industrially. We pour huge amounts of poisons on the earth, kills the life of the soil. We pour huge amounts of poisons on the crops to kill the bugs. Oh, have you read that 70% of the bugs are missing in the world, have died off? Should that be a cause for alarm? The earth dies, and so instead of the earth sequestering and storing carbon, it gives the carbon off to the air. Organic farming increases the life, creates the life in dead soils, and that life incorporates more and more carbon. We could suck a lot of carbon out of the atmosphere just by converting back to organic farming. I say back because it all used to be organic farming. Maybe we fertilize our crops with manure from our animals. Oh, but now, Bayer, and I don't know the names of the chemical companies here in Denmark, but the chemical companies have taken over, and they advertise to the farmers. Resist advertising. Don't buy it unless you really need it.
You know, the world's climate scientists tell us that the highest safe level of emissions would be around 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We're already at 400. They tell us that the sort of safest we could hope to do without having perilous implications as far as drought, famine, human conflict, major species extinction would be about a 2 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. We're rapidly approaching that, and with all the built-in carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere, we're easily going to exceed that. So on our watch, we are facing the next major extinction of species on the Earth that we haven't seen since the time of the dinosaurs disappearing. You know, when whole countries go underwater because of sea level rise, when whole countries find that there's so much drought that they can't feed their population, and as a result they need to desperately migrate to another country or invade another country. I mean, we're going to have climate wars in the future.
And what about livestock and animals and agriculture?
Well, what about, I mean,
Okay, that was the lead to a movie called Cowspiracy. Okay, so that guy, the gentleman, was set up. He was interviewed and asked, and he did this wonderful rap about how dangerous climate change is. But then the interviewer said, how about animal agriculture, industrial animal agriculture? And the man said, what about it? It turns out that the Sierra Club has a major donor in the meatpacking industry. He could not say we should not be eating meat, or we should be eating less meat, or that source of donation. Money controls. Even the NGOs. I made a presentation yesterday up in Roskilde at the university, and someone asked me afterwards, I'm deciding what I should go into. Should I work for the UN? Should I work for an NGO? I said, don't work for the UN. Because the UN is working at the behest of the nations, and the nations don't really want anything that will challenge their economies. The economy comes first, people come second. Huh? I said, go into an NGO. And then somebody else said, but the NGOs, you want to try to find an NGO that is not beholden to some destructive organization for its source of money. Money makes the world go round. We have to change your relationship with money. Any other questions? Thank you for asking that. God gave me an opportunity to present that. You may want to, so the conclusion, you don't have to give up eating meat. If you're vegan or vegetarian, wonderful. If you like meat, fine. You don't have to eat so much of it. Okay? They're saying the thing to do now, and it's healthier, is a plant-rich diet. You want to eat more of the grains, the vegetables, and the fruits. And meat should be a common part of your diet, perhaps, if you like meat, but not the main. Another question?
How would you go about suing the government?
Good question. I pointed to my friend Patrick because one of the attorneys who I'm in contact with, actually two, one's in the Netherlands, one's in America, are looking for the, shall we say, the dirt on Denmark to see whether or not a case could be made to be brought in Denmark against the government for it. So how would you go about suing the Patrick, can you handle?
I'm looking into that matter right now myself. I'm interested in doing that, but I don't know the answer to the question. I'm trying to get in contact with some lawyers here in Denmark and start something up. I'm hoping it becomes something fruitful. And that's all I can say about it at the moment. I haven't gotten very far with it yet.
But I'd add, if you and some of your colleagues, some of your friends here at school are interested in being the plaintiffs, it becomes much, much stronger if there are young people suing the government. Because it's you're the ones who are getting fucked. Now, the decision, if you saw that photo that I published, someone pointed out to me the one Agenda versus Netherlands. It was all older women, mothers and grandmothers, who were trying to defend their children. But in the US, it was all kids and one adult. It's very good PR for children to be suing the government. Okay, so be part of that. Stay in touch with Patrick. Another question? We used up the time? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Der er cirka et kvarter tilbage, inden den næste lektion starter i workshopsen. Jeg tænkte, at jeg fik rigtig for kort tid til at vise. Vi gør det, at vi hvad siger du, Irene?
Jeg tænker bare, hvis vi tager 5 minutter og får tredje års nu, så kan vi godt nå at vise de 2 film, inden de går til pause, faktisk. Ja. Altså, det var bare, eller, det ved jeg ikke.
Jeg siger tak til tredje udtægt, jeg er første og anden i et øjeblik.
Det er Mathias. Stort slippe, det kendes bagefter. Jeg har